I'm not much of the political sense when it comes to talking about politics and whatever, but noticing this whole Israel-Palestine conflict flaring up again, as it seems to every now and every so often. Zinchenko, the former Manchester City left back, now playing at Arsenal, posted his support for Israel, saying, "I stand with Israel." And this is the same dude who, obviously being of Ukrainian descent background, took it tough when the whole Russia-Ukraine thing was really kicking off. Some would say it's still going on, but at its height, shall we say. It seems to have died down a little bit now, but I don't really follow it, so I'm not too sure. But the fact that he says, "I stand with Israel," and they had a go at Ozil and El-Neny, the Egyptian footballer playing for Arsenal, when he posted support for Palestine, they had a statement for him basically saying, like, no, this is not on, what are you doing? We don't do these sorts of things. And if you remember as well, Mo, who was the former Arsenal Fan TV or AFTV personality, he ended up leaving AFTV because he had the Palestine badge while he was on AFTV, and Robbie Lyle, Don Robbie, the creator of AFTV, didn't like that, and said we should leave politics out of the football and whatever. And you know what? You can argue till the cows come home, whether who is right, who is wrong. My whole stance is, I don't think you should be involved in at all. I mean, you're a footballer. Yes, you have a private life, you have things you want to support and whatnot, but at the same time, you really should sort of just be there, do your job, and then do what you got to do. My stance is, don't involve yourself in political conflicts, international conflicts, if it is not going to ruffle the feathers, or if it's not going against what the norm is, what the narrative is of the story, right? They will say, if you support Israel, you're based. If you support Palestine, you're a terrible human being. Well, if you know the history between Israel and Palestine and the Gaza Strip and all that, you may be thinking, twice about that. And like I said, I'm not here to discuss who's right, who's wrong. My whole thing is the politics should be left aside, because now, if Arsenal are allowing Zinchenko to post this, which I believe now he has gone quiet on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken here, from Centre Goal's tweet. Yep, Zinchenko has now gone private on his Instagram after his story. So I take it a lot of people have seen what he has posted. And again, this is the man who was, crying for support for Ukraine when, Russia was invading Ukraine and fighting back and all that sort of stuff. Hussam, he had it on here. This guy spent every minute in the media crying about Ukraine and then supports the oppressor. Make it make sense. That being, of course, Israel being a created nation some 50, 60 odd years ago now. Again, history lessons. I'm not here to debate who owns what or who's owed what. This is just what it is. Saeed TV, Arab fella, Manchester United fan. Did another country invade their land? Absolute hypocritical prick. Can't stand him. Wallahi. It's my new favorite word, wallahi. Remember, Mesut Ozil did the same thing with the Muslim Uyghurs in China when they were found out to be being oppressed and whatnot. Now, Arsenal distanced themselves from Mesut Ozil comments on the Uyghurs' plights. Midfielder highlight persecution of Muslims in China. Club says it does not involve itself in politics in a statement. Well, if that's the case, they should be putting a statement out on behalf of Zinchenko, saying that they don't have any stance in the political aspect in this as well. But of course, we'll see what happens. Yes, basically, once Ozil did that, basically stopped playing for Arsenal, ostracized from the squad before he moved on. As I said, I hope Arsenal have the same energy towards this Zinchenko guy. So it's interesting to see how people are split on these things. Some will say, I'm pro-Israel, I'm pro-Palestine. I don't particularly care. You guys do your own thing. But more examples of it here. This was the Ozil and El-Neny situation. Wider implications of pro-Palestinian social media posts amid sponsor concern. Arsenal sponsors Lavazza they held talks with him and whatnot. Phased him out, possibly. I haven't seen him recently. I don't know what's going on there. So it's almost like if you support, who the bad person is in the media's eyes, then you are a terrible human being. So once again, the politics probably should not be a part of football, in my opinion. Again, it's hard to separate the two, but we can only hope and wish that maybe one day footballers in general will just not worry about this sort of thing here. Again, they have the campaigns, no room for racism and things like that. I get all that, and the equality and all that sort of stuff. That's fairly understandable. But when you're trying to pick sides between different countries doing whatnot, again, some will say, well, Hamas were the aggressors in this instant here, but if you talk to a Palestinian or someone who's pro-Palestine, then we'll say, well, hang on a second, they've occupied land that wasn't theirs, and they want their land back, so, who's oppressing who here? It's a very messy situation, which is what, again, I may be getting that completely wrong. That's my understanding. I'm not a big politics guy, don't really know the whole backstory of the Middle East, just things that I believe, I think I understand. Again, I don't know if we should get rid or if we should alter it. But yeah, the politics aspect, in my opinion, the less of it's involved in football, probably the better it is for everybody. My personal opinion. You let me know in your comments if you come across this video.